Welcome back everybody to another video, taking a look at some more 1.4.4 changes today, or more like one change, or I guess multiple changes to one item, which is going to be the Aqua Scepter for today's video. It's always been a very middling or just straight up bad weapon that you get from the dungeon, and it's never really been useful for much. You can use it in the dungeon to clean up some skeletons because they stack a lot, and this is a piercing weapon that can be useful there somewhat, and then you just never use it again. And that's kind of just always been my experience with the Aqua Scepter. But 1.4.4 has brought some huge buffs to the item, which I think could potentially make it one of the more cracked pre-hard mode items in the game. And that's just from on-paper testing. I'm not quite sure how it is in practice, but I will also be probably putting some boss fights somewhere on the screen for you guys to look at, where I actually test the weapon out. If we hop right over here to my patented 5 dummy setup, we're gonna test the damage in a moment after I read the changes to you guys, if you haven't seen them already. So the first one is the biggest one in my opinion, and is that the damage was increased from 16 to 27, which is an 11 damage buff to an item that already had pretty low damage. I believe that's about a 70% damage increase off the top of my head, something like that. And that is huge for any item, especially an item that pierces a lot like the Aqua Scepter does. That sort of damage increase is going to stack a lot and have a really big impact. The mana cost was increased from 6 to 7, which means that you can't just hold it out and use it for quite as long as you used to be able to, but it's only a 1 mana nerf, and that's probably going to be completely made up for by the damage buff, I would imagine. And the range was increased substantially, and its angle of descent is more gradual. So the last one is interesting. I don't actually know how much range the old Aqua Scepter used to have. I may try to get some footage of a pre 1.4.4 Aqua Scepter if I can manage it, and put it side by side when I'm testing the damage of just this weapon so you can see the difference, as well as the range, which I'll show you right now. Off the top of my head, it kind of feels like the Aqua Scepter used to maybe just shoot maybe to over to the other side of this crater here, and now it can shoot all the way off of your screen. So the range is pretty impressive. The gradual angle of descent change is a little interesting to me. I'm not quite sure what exactly that's going to do, if it just makes the animation look smoother, or if this is actually going to help you land your shots a little easier potentially, which is what the range increase already does. The damage itself is kind of nutty. I've tested it a little bit. I have a bit of a setup here, a realistic setup for the point in the game that you get the Aqua Scepter, in my opinion, which is jungle armor, and that's about it. Maybe you'd have a magic buffing item. I don't really think there's any of them at this point in the game though. In pre-hard mode, I could be wrong, but I feel like there isn't. But let's give this a try on our dummies here, and you can see it pierces all 5 of the dummies, and it's doing about 1,050 to 1,100 damage fairly consistently, which is very impressive for a mid pre-hard mode item, which I think is shown if you test the damage against other items like the Flame Lash, which you get from the underworld chests. And as you can see, this does about 300 DPS. It only hits 3 enemies, but at the same time, it's this is a test to highlight the Aqua Scepter's strengths. And as you can see, this just doesn't quite hold up. This also allows you to control it, and it tracks enemies, and explodes in an AoE, so it can hit in not just a straight line, but regardless, it's kind of just shown up. And this is definitely an item that you get later in pre-hard mode as well, so it being outclassed so heavily is quite impressive. A similar thing with the Demon Scythe, which I believe also pierces infinitely, and as you can see also still cannot hold up, even though you get this from demons, which is after the temple. You find the underworld after the temple. I think that the Demon Scythe is meant to be an item that supersedes the Aqua Scepter and other dungeon items. That's what it seems to me, at least, or always seemed to me. We have the laser rifle, and I know it's the laser rifle, and I wanted to show you the laser rifle, even though it is technically a hard mode item, because this item also can't keep up in damage. It's pretty close, but it doesn't quite do it. Again, only hits 3 enemies. So if you were only hitting 3 enemies with the water or Aqua Scepter, it would not be doing as much. But as I explained with the Flame Lash, it's kind of meant to showcase the Aqua Scepter's strength, this test. And I mean, regardless, you're still hitting 3 enemies with a hard mode item, and it's not going past the damage of an item that you get in the middle of free hard mode, hitting 5, which, you know, I think that's a reasonable expectation potentially. But again, laser rifle. Even the Water Bolt, which is like age old, considered a insane weapon, you know, maybe not insane, but a very, very solid, strong option that you can use. You can find it immediately out the gate from the dungeon, and you can use it all the way until the end of pre-hard mode. Like, you can use this against the wall of flesh, and it works, like, consistently, the Water Bolt, as long as you get some sort of setup for it. And even in an ideal situation, which is just having the Water Bolts bounce back and forth, I believe this is the one that comes the closest. I mean, I don't even know. It's not getting up there, right? It is kind of. It's breaking 1,000, but it's not actually reaching the peak that the Aqua Scepter does. As another like crazy useful piercing item, it actually being outdamaged by the Aqua Scepter, it was kind of like one of the big tests for me. So I just thought that was cool. I think that this is an item with a lot of potential now, just because of all of the damage that it does. Especially in certain situations where you are able to utilize it hitting multiple enemies. So that's pretty much going to be it. I just thought that this was a cool change to an item that's just been very slept on for a very long time and has finally received some love, like a lot of the other items in this update that were kind of left alone for a long time and finally got some changes. And I think the Aqua Scepter is one of the items that receives changes that might actually have a huge impact on how it is used, because I think this is going to be definitely a usable item now, and may even just be crazy in pre-hard mode. But that's probably going to be it. I just wanted to go over these Aqua Scepter buffs because for some reason they piqued my interest. The Aqua Scepter is just an item that stood out when I went over all the changes in my video that went over all of the balance changes. And I most definitely just wanted to make a quick video checking it out and containing some sort of, you know, tests to see how good the item actually was. And honestly, I'm more impressed than I thought I would be. I didn't think it would be this good even on paper, so that's pretty cool. That'll be everything from me though, and I shall see you in the next one.